Well, so there it is, Trig Identity. It's a pretty extraordinary piece of technology, and I'm told by its founder, Stephen Young, who's joining us here today, here at the Foghorn, that in fact it's the only one that's currently out there at the moment, so it's quite significant. But Stephen, a little bit about your background. You're the founder and chief technology officer of TrigID, and it's a revolutionary new blockchain resident cryptographic technology that preserves your anonymity and your privacy, but allows anyone to test the attributes that define your identity. That's on the website.
Yeah, so that's a lot of words, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is a lot of words. Yeah. Yes, that's right. It is the only technology of its kind. It is very new, and we think that there's a great deal of promise, and it solves a great number of problems. And I'm really grateful you showed the video, because it does a much better job than I would do of explaining just the very user.
But no, you can't get out of it that easily. We're here to unpick the Algordian knot to some extent.
Okay.
So now just hold it down there, and that'd be just roughly there, just very relaxed, etc. So originally, though, you were the chief executive officer at FaxNexus Proprietary Limited, which developed the launch of graph-based DBMS and also Public Data Initiative. And you also were the chief executive of Electric Mint. So was that your first stepping or first role as an entrepreneur with Electric Mint?
Oh, look, I've been an entrepreneur all my life, I guess, but and Electric Mint was a vehicle to I guess to peddle my services and the services of people around me as a data person. Right? I've worked in data all my life, and 2010 we changed the name of that company to FaxNexus, and we focused on a new style of data structure called a graph database, and that's where the graph base product came from. Yeah.
Okay.
So you've been working in data a long time. How have you transitioned from working with data to moving into ID and using blockchain as a way to safeguard?
Sure. So a blockchain essentially is a very large database. It is a database, it's a large ledger, which is a database of transactions, and effectively a relational database, or any database that you might use in a technology space, is the same thing. It is a bunch of transactions which makes something which you can put data in and pull data out. That is what blockchain is. It's very slow compared with a normal database, but it has the advantage that it is everywhere, it's immutable, and it's consensus. So it's not such a big stretch. It's a very similar set of uses, but done in a different way. And the reason we got into identity is that because blockchain really is a very poor database for a lot of information, but it is a good database for small amounts of information. And so we picked a use case, a set of applications that it's good for, and identity is one of those things.
Now, when we were in preparation for this, we were discussing what it exactly you're trying to solve, but you also mentioned that in terms of the number of people out there on the planet who actually have no identity, you were talking about 1 billion people who are, use the expression, unbanked. So you're thinking this is an area that those people who don't have a bank account obviously are earning very, very small amounts of money and probably trade in a cash economy, could be potentially using this technology? And
sure.
I'm trying to understand why would they?
Well, sure. So from the third world, I guess, is a place where the lack of a formal identity is impacts people most. And there are about a billion people who have no formal identity whatsoever. Those are the estimates. And that impacts them when they're refugees, when they're children, for example. They're very easily the victims of human trafficking. And when you talk about people who don't earn a great deal of money, there's probably 3 billion people in the world who earn less than $3 a day. And those are people who don't have access to bank accounts, for example, and credit cards, all the sorts of things that we take for granted. They don't have the capacity to borrow, they don't have the capacity to lend, they don't have the capacity to mortgage. And you can't on $3 a day. because the infrastructure is so expensive. But if we can blockchain it, make it consensus and give them a free identity, they don't need any of that stuff. So potentially it's going to make a big difference to those people. Look, I'm very, I guess, very enthusiastic about the sorts of things we can do in the underdeveloped world. We have quite a big team in the Philippines, for example, and every time I go there, I am astonished by the level of poverty. As many as 80% of the population is unbanked. They live on that less than $3 a day, and you see it firsthand.
So is that the primary demographic you're hoping to solve with
no,
this?
No, not at all. Unfortunately, identity is, I guess, an embodiment. When we talk about identity, digital identity, it's an embodiment of lots and lots of different problems. I mean, the problem, I guess, that's most prevalent in people's minds at the moment is this notion of identity theft. You may have heard of the GDPR, for example, which is a major initiative on the part of European governments to tidy up the way information is managed. But there are many technological solutions which are possible, and we feel that if we can put people's identities safely in a public environment, then there is no need for companies to keep personal identity inside their databases. There's therefore nothing to steal. So that's an opportunity to solve the problem of identity theft.
Let's talk about identity theft for 1 second. Why is it a problem now? Is it because so much information is online? Is that the core problem of identity theft?
I'm sorry?
Why is identity theft such an issue for us to be thinking about?
Look, I think the reason identity theft is a problem is that the world has become more and more digital. People want to get more and more of their stuff into records, whether it's medical records or your insurance records. And when they store all that stuff, it's there available for somebody to come and take. Now, once they've taken it, they can pretend to be you. And when they pretend to be you, they can go and get benefits that would normally be reserved for you. They can get credit cards in your name. They can, I guess, receive unemployment benefits in your name. There are all sorts of things they can do. And so there is a ready market for data which allows someone to steal your identity. And various estimates can be as little as $1 through to as much as $200 or $300 for an identity. And that's why it's a problem. It's a target. Yeah?
Great. So the use of this system, do you need everyone in the world to be a part of the system, or can we subscribe to it? How does it work to safeguard and build?
So I guess when we talk about identity, it's not just about you proving who you are. It's about you and lots of other people proving who you're not, right? So somebody else, Austrac might want to prove, for example, that you're not a terrorist and you're not involved in money laundering. So it can't just be about you. It has to be about the capacity for other people to store information about you in a safe way. So our project is about. We hope to put every single person on the planet inside this data structure over a period of 3 years. So that's 7.6 billion people. And I know that's a lot, and it's potentially a very adventurous undertaking, but one thing that blockchain does and cryptocurrencies do is it enables you to crowdsource that process. So every person with a phone or a PC can safely load up their information and the information of all the people they know about, and you will end up with what is a public resource of information about, or checkable information about every person in the world for all of these services that's there safely.
But I guess, why would I want to do that when really most of my transactions are taking place in a space that I think is pretty secure? I mean, what's the motivation?
Sure. Look, if there's one thing we've seen from this whole crypto space is that people are quite happy with the degree of security that they have. But I'll tell you who's not happy. The banks and the governments are not happy. They don't want to see you doing transactions on the dark web. They don't want to see you buying drugs. They don't want to see you doing human trafficking. They don't want to see you making huge amounts of money and not paying taxes. So much as we would like that that complete control of our identity information to remain completely ours, it's not something that our regulators are going to permit.
Pull back.
So we're going to make it safe for them.
It's quite an ambitious feat to have every person in the world sign up to your platform and crowdsource our data. Do you need every single person on the planet to put up their hand?
No,
and
we
be
don't.
Involved? So tell us about what the crowdsourcing of this means.
So I guess we'll probably talk a little bit about cryptocurrencies a bit later on, but one thing that blockchain does is it enables us to create token economies. And a token economy is just where you make fake money for a particular purpose and you allow that fake money to be used for a variety of different purposes. So in the crypto space, there are, to give you an example, we have not issued any tokens yet, but we have made a piece of software which says our cryptocurrency is going to be there, and people are doing work for us already. And using that as a mechanism, you can crowdsource things, you can get things done.
Have you launched the product, or is it still in a testing phase?
No, it's still in the testing phase. Yep.
So, and with stage, where are you moving to? When do you want to launch, ideally?
So, again, this is because we're talking about blockchain, and because we're talking about an ecosystem and the fostering of an ecosystem. In some respects, it's not the best way to think about it as the efforts of an enterprise like ours. So we are making the software available, we're making the infrastructure available, and we're making the tokenomics available in order for the data to be created, and then we will come along and other people will come along afterwards and use it. So if that makes sense. Without talking about the regulatory environment at the moment, which I'm not sure whether you're familiar with how much difficulty blockchain companies are having at present, where ASIC and the SEC are turning around and saying, no, you can't sell those tokens because they're a security, etc., etc. So whenever we are undertaking a project like this, we have to be mindful of how the regulatory authorities will be looking at it, obviously. But we also want to be mindful of the culture and the ethos of the blockchain community. It grew out of open source. There's a real need and a momentum towards decentralization. There's a real need for things to be trustless, so that there is no trust, so that there is no entity as such that is responsible for things. So when you talk about us launching a product, we are launching a product, but we are effectively making stuff available for a community to use. And so that is progressively being made available. Some of it's available now, and more of it will be made available throughout the year. And by November 1st, I think just about everything will be there.
And how does it move into our lives as the ecosystem that you're building? How do we tap into it as individuals? And is the government going to balk at this? Would they want to control it, or will it be an open source?
So effectively, when you publish something to public blockchain, it is effectively open source. So all of the data pieces, if you like, that make the infrastructure are already there in public and open, and they can't, once they're there. That's just one of the amazing things about blockchain. It's immutable. Once it's there, it can't be taken away again. And so once the genie's out of the bottle, it can't be put back in. I don't know exactly how government will respond. Government is very, very concerned, obviously, about people's privacy. And so for our technology is a bit of a two-edged sword in many respects. It's making information safe for use by a lot of people, but it's providing an incentive for people to go get that information and put it in there. So I'm not sure how they'll respond to it, to be honest.
So significant resources being devoted, your energy, time. In the end, how do you make money out of this?
Well, we make it. We make it, and this is one of the amazing phenomena that we're seeing at the moment with smart contracts and cryptocurrencies, we actually print money. Like Bitcoin prints money, and Ethereum prints money, and all of the tokens that you see implemented using in ICOs and token generating events, they print money. That money then goes to an exchange, and it gets exchanged for other cryptocurrencies for money. So we make it, we print it.
So what's the currency you're going to be working in, though?
Our currency is called an ID, an ID token. Yeah? And so that ID token carries the information which is used to define an identity in the global structure. It's also the currency that is used to have that information curated and services using it.
Okay.
What's the steps for you from taking it as a startup into something that is up and running? Is there what do you need? Is there any, like, do you need investors, or do you just need people consuming?
Look, I think it's very much like any other startup in that you need to tell your story, you need to show what it is that you're going to produce, and then you need to find people who are going to invest their time and effort and potentially their money in the process. The only difference, I think, when it's done in the cryptocurrency space is that you don't have to do it through venture capitalists. You can offer it to ordinary people. You can crowdsource the creation of your company by getting their services and their money.
What do you mean by that? So people buy in.
Yeah,
if I offer my service, I have a portion of the business instead of cash.
Yes. So we print the money, and we use the money that we've printed, the ID tokens, to get people to do work, to build the ID infrastructure, to fix bugs in our software, but also to get in some cash and some other currency as well.
So people can get involved. You have a website. It's called TrigID.org.
Yes, it is.
And is there, you create a profile, or you register, or how do they go about it?
Look, if you want to bid for tokens, there is a bid page there. We're using a process called a blind auction because we think it models the exchange function better than the other mechanisms that are there. You can buy tokens there, or you can just get on any of our social media platforms, a Telegram channel. We have a forum as well, and you can get involved in the project if you like, or you can just find out more about it.
Okay. Well, Stephen, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it and coming on board. A round of applause from our live audience here for Stephen Young, founder and chief executive or chief technology officer of TrigID.